Hi, I'm Kendra Falth Edwards, and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for Cardon and Associates. We own and manage 20 senior living communities in the state of Indiana, and we're based in Bloomington, Indiana. And welcome to the Cardon Resource Hub. We're excited to have you. This is where we take senior living questions and we have industry experts answer them for us and use our resources. This all kind of came about with a group of us always kind of struggling where to find resources for folks who are just trying to navigate taking care of a parent or seniors themselves, and where do they go and where do they find information and resources. So we're excited to have you. And today, what we're going to cover is really a lot about dementia and memory loss and the stressors and the things that people go through as they try to find resources out there. The first panelist we have is Kendra, and I'm going to have her talk about what are those signs that they see in memory loss and what can they do when they start to see that type of thing at home.
Yeah, so there are a few general signs that are going to raise some red flags. So there are some very normal parts of memory loss that all of us are going to experience at some point. So forgetting things like, a birth date or paying a bill here and there, those are normal things. But when you start to see some things that your loved one is doing or some choices that they're making, and generally an unawareness of safety issues, that's when things really become a concern. So I get a lot of phone calls with people who, mom's she's doing pretty well at home, but all of a sudden I came over and her stove was on. She doesn't know when she turned it on, but there was a pot of boiling water, things like that. So we really start to see a lot of things that can compromise a person's safety. So looking at those things, some things you might look for around the house would be, a lot of us will misplace items and say, oh, where are my keys? Totally normal. But you may find that your loved one, went to put out something for dinner and can't find it. It's not in the kitchen, it's in the laundry room. So putting things in strange places, not being able to retrace their steps. So not being able to go back and say, okay, I had my lunch at this time, and then I, went to the living room for a while. So they're unable to trace those steps. And one of the really big key indicators is when you start to see the changes in personality. So a lot of that comes from, with early stages of dementia and memory loss, people are aware. They're aware that, oh gosh, I'm having a difficult time following this conversation. I'd love to jump in, but I don't want to because I don't want to be embarrassed. So they start to withdraw. So if you notice that your loved one is not engaging in activities that they normally would, or even just, chatting with family at a family dinner, things like that. Maybe they're just smiling and nodding and just trying to go along, but they're not really interacting. So that's a big indicator. Less activity at home. So they've become a little sedentary. They're not interested in getting up and doing the things that they did before. And then a very, very big red flag is if your loved one is wandering. So are they leaving the home and not, are they ending up in places that, they wanted to go for a walk down the street or walk their dog? Now they're confused. They may be in the wrong neighborhood. Someone may have stopped to help them. And then worst case scenario is we do get a lot of phone calls where, people are still driving. And it may even be something that's completely familiar to them. They go to the post office every day, but suddenly they can't remember how to get home from the post office. So that is a big indicator that it's time to look at getting some help at home. So really, when you start to see a combination of those things where you're seeing some of the personality changes, difficulty following conversation, withdrawal, and then some safety issues at home and things that just aren't normal. So, they may have done laundry for 50 years and all of a sudden they are unable to sequence how to put the clothes in, then put the detergent in and turn the washer on. So those simple tasks become very confusing. So some very simple things that you can put in place. So I work in, skilled home health care. So one of the things that we do is one of the first things is we're going to look at the home and do a home safety evaluation. So you want to really pare down the home and make things as simple as possible. So removing things like rugs in the hallways for trip hazards, putting things that are used every day, like dishes, the plates and cups that they're going to use at eye level or places where they can reach them. So they're not, trying to climb on a stool or things like that. There are some things that can be used in the home that can prevent some of those safety issues, like knob covers for the stove. We do recommend a lot, meal preparation. So you get into some of that trouble with, putting things in the microwave or in the oven. And if they have a meal prepared, then they're not going to be triggered to go and, cook for themselves. So some of those things around the home can really make a big difference. Even just lighting in the hallways and removing clutter, because that can be distracting. And a lot of times persons with dementia will have issues with visual spatial relationships as well. So even change from, hardwood flooring to carpet can be difficult for them to process and lead to some trip hazards as well. So just putting some of those simple things in place. And we know that it's not possible for everyone to be home with their family member 24 hours a day. Right? A lot of us work. We can't do that. But if you can't be there, check in as often as you can. Maybe set up regular phone calls so you can check in and say, hey, Mom, did you remember to take your pills this morning? Have you eaten lunch? Just making sure that they're answering and just getting a feel for where they're at in their day. And then, setting reminders. That can be something like, setting it up through an Alexa where it reminds them it's time to eat, your lunch is in the refrigerator. Or a lot of people respond really well to notes. So like a fluorescent green or pink note, even in the bathroom that says, remember to wash your hands after you use the restroom, brush your teeth when you wake up in the morning. So just some of those simple notes and reminders to cue people that this is what you need to do next. So those are very, very helpful while you're in the process of looking for more assistance. So those are some simple things that you can do around the house and just, check in as much as possible and keep things as simple as possible.
That's great. Thank you. So Susan, I want to introduce you to the as a panelist as well. I know that you've had a really special experience with your mom and something that you just randomly fell into, and that it's really been a game changer and a very special moment for you that I'd love for you to share as well with everyone.
Awesome. Thank you, Kendra. On a personal level, I do work for Cardon and Associates in the marketing division, but on a personal level, my own mom is 91 years old, and she has really been, her memory has been declining over the last several years. And so recently I had a friend reach out to me with a text message and just said that there was a music player that his father-in-law had used, and they were done with it. And he wondered if we might like to have that. So it's literally it's called the Simple Music Player. And it looks like it's like a replica of an old-fashioned radio. So anybody would recognize it, when they see it as a visual as being a radio. And you literally load the music on through an MP3 player, which I don't know how to do. My friend did that for me, but I had him, you can select the music that you want. So I had him load Johnny Cash, who is my mom's favorite, and Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass, some old hymns that I knew that she would enjoy. And so those are preloaded on. And literally when you look at the box, there's a line that says, lift top to play music. And you literally just lift that up and the music starts. It's so incredibly simple. And then on the inside, it says close lid to stop the music, and you just put it back down. The volume controls are on the bottom, so nobody can kind of turn it on or off. And I took it over last weekend to my mom. She lives 2.5 hours from me. And literally when I say it was life-changing, it was life-changing. She just, I had all the caregivers come in and I was like, oh my gosh, look what I brought my mom. If it's not turned on, please just remind her. But so far she is spot on. I mean, it's like she can't wait to get back to the apartment and turn the music on. I was talking to one of the nurses later and she said to me, did you see how your mom's eyes lit up when she was talking about that? So I just think there are products like that out there for people that can be so simple, but honestly, if someone had not told me about it, I would have had no idea that existed. So there were a couple of times when there was a song playing that I knew that she loved, and I would say, hey, Mom, do you recognize that? And she'd say, no, I don't really think so. And then a minute later, she would be humming it or kind of singing along to it. So I knew that it was bringing up those memories for her. So I just think I was super excited. It has literally been life-changing for her.
Yes, throughout my career, I think there are two things that have has allowed me to connect with people on a much deeper level. Music is one of them, and art. But I don't have a very artistic bone in my body from the art standpoint, but I've watched people really come out and really touch that inside of people, and it's beautiful. But music is one, just hearing a song or any type of just remembering that and the memories and the feelings that it can bring out in people, and you really connect differently. So thank you. And thank you for sharing that, your personal story as well.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yes. Tina, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. I'd love to hear what about Joy's House and the types of services that you provide in the community as well for caregivers and for individuals with dementia.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. I am Tina McIntosh. I'm blessed to be the founder and president of Joy's House. We are a not-for-profit adult day service and caregiver support and education organization located in Indianapolis, Indiana. So we have our main location in Broad Ripple and a second adult day service at the University of Indianapolis. I, like Kendra, have been doing this for 23 years. So it's been just really a blessing to do this kind of work and ministry for me. So from an adult day service perspective, for people who don't know what that is, we are open Monday through Friday. Currently, our hours are 8 to 5. We used to be 7 to 6 and would consider doing that again if families needed that. And we are a place where adults who are living with some kind of a life-altering diagnosis, so Alzheimer's or dementia, strokes, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, Down syndrome, you name it, we've probably seen the diagnosis over 23 years, where they are coming during the days to have a purpose and a reason to get up and come into the community, have their own place, people who know their diagnoses and things that they need for support throughout the day, also to enrich their lives, to fulfill their lives and give them safety and community. And so we really love what we're doing. We are home and community-based care, if people are familiar with that term. And our goal is to keep people in their homes until their last day on this earth, if that's possible. But we all know that a lot of times that's not. And so that's where relationships like that we have with all of you at Cardon is so important, because we know that it's oftentimes that the loved one gets to the point where the caregiver just can't continue to do this at home, and they're scared about turning their care over to someone else. It was hard enough for them to bring them to Joy's House, for years. And it's hard for them to turn that over to someone else for 24/7. And so we're really grateful that we have relationships like this where we can refer folks to people like all of you to say, here are people that can join in on the, this care journey with you. And it's okay that you can't do it at home anymore. So that's the adult day service side. Throughout this, as you can all imagine, we watched caregivers age and deteriorate. Statistically, caregivers typically end up with a life-altering diagnosis themselves if they're not participating in self-care, which is really easy to say. I often say it's like, you remember the days when the government would give us a food chart, and they'd be like, just eat healthier. And they'd hand us a food chart. And here we were to eat healthy, just follow the chart. I kind of feel like it's the same thing with caregiving. We say, just take care of yourself. Put your oxygen mask on first. And people are like, I don't even know what that means in my daily life. And so we have gotten into the caregiver support and education side of things considerably over the years. And, Kendra, you and I have talked, if people did not know what caregiving was prior to the global pandemic, boy, they sure know what it is now. it's come to light in a different way. And so COVID was like this unfortunate case study of the importance of community and of having all of us in place to support when you have an aging loved one. So if it's okay with you, I'll kind of dive into what we're going to be doing with our caregiving programs this year.
Yeah, I'd love to hear about that because I think the caregivers are the unsung heroes. It's so hard. There's so much importance in making sure they take care of themselves, like you mentioned. And I'd love to hear about those resources and advice that you have specifically for caregivers through this, because it's so stressful and it's so overwhelming. And there's just a lot going on.
Yeah.
So to hear that.
Yes, and let me give you, I think, one of the best pieces of advice that I have, and then I want to tell you about the programs that we're going to be creating because they're going to be incredible. One of the best pieces of advice that we have is that if you're a caregiver, you've got to drop your pride. I get that you love your person more than anybody else ever will, but other people want to help you and they want to support you. They have no idea how to do it. It's either hard for them because they've loved somebody in their life, and they're struggling how to show up, or they just don't know what to do. And so I always tell caregivers, it's okay to say, Danica, I would love dinner. You offered to bring us dinner. I'd love dinner. How about 6 o'clock on Wednesday? And we're sick of pasta and we really don't want chicken. And I'll put a cooler on the front porch. If we're not able to answer the door, if you can just put it in there, I'll send you a text. That would be great. And for Danica to be able to do that and show up and show us love in that way, that's wonderful. And it feels, a part of your spirit. And for us, it helps in such a big way. And there are things like that people can do. Now, when you've been a caregiver for a long time, I know people kind of wax and wane and in and out of your life, and that's okay. It doesn't mean they don't love you and they don't want to support you. So, there are lots of in the moment pieces of advice. And so I'll just go directly into one of the things we're creating this year is a digital ecosystem, which when I say that, I don't know if you're like me, I'm like, bleh. What does that mean? That sounds so boring. But it's not just a flat website. It is, if we could make it 4-dimensional and it could breathe air on you, we would, but that's a lot of money. We're not going to be able to do that. But what it is, it's a living, breathing community for caregivers. And so, Susan, I heard you just tell the story about that, beautiful experience you had with your mom. And you didn't know that piece of equipment was out there. Part of that reason is we don't create any kind of a community for caregivers, on a large scale. So what we're doing is working with the Indiana Division of Aging and with other players, you all are one of them, in the state of Indiana, to create a place where caregivers will go. And when you enter into this website, you'll have a caregiver concierge who really vets to see, are you a caregiver? Because that's part of the problem is we don't even identify. I'm just a daughter doing my job, taking care of my mom, because that's what I do. I'm her daughter. But so it's hard for me to understand that I have a caregiver role as well, even though I know I'm doing all of the things. And so coming into that, not only will I be able to see what resources are out there for me, but more importantly, I'll be able to create a connection with other caregivers, people who have walked this and who can give me advice. And there will be different buildings and homes that I can go into on this website where I'll be able to watch video vignettes and hear audio vignettes and collect resources on things on the spot. So part of the problem that we have with caregivers too is we expect caregivers to fall into a 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And that's not going to work because Saturday at 2 a.m, my uncle that I'm caring for, I don't know how to redirect him. He's trying to get out of the house. And so, I need guidance at all times. And if I have a resource that I can go to and learn from other people, professionals and other caregivers, that's going to be critical. So the key for that, and I wrote down my notes because these are the words I want to always remember, is it will be trusted, vetted information. And those are huge. Trusted, vetted information, and with empathy and community. And I think with caregivers, we have to remember that empathy, that heart is really the main part of that. And so we're really, really excited about it. It's just going to be for caregivers. We will be looking for pilot participation. So if people are interested in that, we'd love to have them, contact us. And they can do that, Kendra, obviously through you. You're stuck with us. You're part of the Joyce House family. And then we are doing care kits too. They're binders. We have them. They're free for any caregivers. It's just template information. It's kind of like walking into a 101 course on caregiving. Helps you think about things that are coming, just so you know that they're a thing. because as caregivers, we don't know that. And then the last thing, and I'll make this kind of quick, but it's me, like, I'm so excited, is an end of life doula program that we will be doing sooner rather than later. This is to help people who are dying, actively dying. We will work hand in hand with hospice or palliative care if people have those services in place. And we will be hired by the dying individual. And I know when I say those words, they hit us all differently, right? Like, we're like, I don't want to talk about death and dying. But the reality is that's the only way any of us get out of this earth. We just are afraid to talk about it. And so as recent as 1945, most deaths in the United States occurred in the homes. By the 1980s, only 17% did. So just think about that. 1945, most deaths were in the home. And by the 1980s, only 17% of our deaths were at home. I mean, we have been dying as long as we've been living, and there have been people helping to walk that process. And so the word doula kind of throws people off sometimes because it feels so like woo-woo-y, and smudge sticky, and it can be, but it's a very real thing. We'll be walking that journey with people and helping them to understand what that process is like. There was a study recently done with cancer patients who were given 4 months or less to live. No one had talked with them about the dying process. Literally told, you have 4 months or less to live. Go ahead and check out, make your next appointment. And that was it. So we will be helping people to live presently, die peacefully, understand the process, and working with the families in that transition after that as well. And most importantly, make those resolutions and have conversations and just walk alongside of them, but have purpose. That's the one thing that we have learned, is that each and every one of us, I know you see this in your daily lives too, we want purpose in our lives until the day that we're no longer here. So thank you for letting me share all that, Kendra.
All right, thank you for joining the Cardon Resource Hub. I really hope that this information was helpful and informative. Please don't hesitate. We'll have everyone's contact information in the notes, and you can just reach out, ask any questions, don't hesitate, and thank you for joining.